Hey, welcome back guys, and I'm talking today about fox karambit. So a pretty infamous or famous folding knife that folds away to a nice compact package. I'm just going to talk about the pros and cons. I've had this one quite a few years now. It's a flipper design. I'll do a top down on it, have a little look around it, talk about its pros and cons. It's the Karambit, and especially this Karambit, has achieved some sort of notoriety. You get, I think there's a computer game, or maybe more than one, where the Karambit's come into use, and it seems to be pretty well spoken about knife out of all the knives there are. A lot of people that maybe aren't generally into knives or own any knives have heard or seen this, and I suppose it's something to do with its look as well, because it's got this curved blade which is pretty cool looking, and I suppose quite mean looking, so that might pique people's interest, whether that be in a good or bad way. But it's actually a pretty functional design as well. So one of the cool things about the fox karambit, you can see the ring poking out, so that gives you something to get hold of, and then I can just grab that, and it's got an Amazon type opener piece on it there, so that's catching on the trousers, and it's coming straight out into the hand, and that's just catching on this back piece. You can do that either way. I've seen people, if I was using the other hand, you can carry it and drag it out that way and it catches on. I like to draw with left hand, because I'm left-handed, and I actually find it easier to draw it from the front and then just spin it round, and then you've got it straight there. So we have the Fox 479 Karambit, and the Karambit being defined by this build blade shape here. It's quite an aggressive blade shape, obviously almost talon-like, very sharp at the tip, and not particularly, it wouldn't be something you would want to use for cutting the vegetables up with. It's quite a specialised shape, and the 479 is defined by this licensed part here, which is the Emerson Wave, which we've got a bit of video of, and it shows it as a deployment tool. So that piece, when the fox knife is shut and the karambit shut, that piece, as it pulls out the pocket, sticks on the side of your pocket and it deploys the blade. Now, it's not specific to karambits, but a lot of karambits also have this ring, which can be used by the finger. It can be used to pull the knife out and then go into the hand, and it just stops the knife being pulled out of the hand. And it can also be used as a striking device if you were to use one of these in a defensive manner or an offensive manner. So what makes these things so infamous or famous, depending on how you put it? Well, these were one of the first mass-produced karambits to come out. Certainly not the first karambits. They've been out hundreds and hundreds of years, and various different civilizations have made use of this type of knife, but this was one of the first and most well known that came out of mass produced foldable knives that were maybe aimed at the EDC or tactical communities. So we'll just run through some of the specification. So it's got a blade length of 3 inches, blade thickness 0.11 of an inch, and the material, which you can see just on there, N690 stainless with a plain blade grind. They came, or this one in particular came very, very, very sharp out of the box, and it's got a finish on it which they describe Fox as being black Hydra glider, but it's a resilient finish, and it's got some good writing on there as well. You've got Fox knives on one side and then Karambit in that script on the other. It's single edged, so a lot of people think that that top edge is sharp. It isn't. There are Karambits around that do have sharpened edges on the top and bottom, but on this particular one it's not, because it's a folding knife, so you would not want to be carrying that around with a sharpened top edge, because it would cut you and it would cut through your trousers. It's got this thumb hole opening here that can be used, not unlike a Spyderco. The slight difference with these knives I find is that they're not great, they're hard to flick out and deploy. They're just, even if you loosen them off, it's got a flipper on there, and even with that, it's not a great flipper. It needs a bit of a flick out. If you give it a hard flick, it does deploy. But really it's intended for this sort of opening, or this deployed opening through here, which it does do every time, to be fair. That deploys very well out of the pocket, and it's the quickest and easiest way to deploy it. And you don't have to drag it on the pocket, you can extract it from the pocket without deploying it if you don't want to scare people around you. So it's got G10 scales. Build quality is really, really robust. The handle feels nice. It can obviously be gripped. You've got quite a nice thumb rump there. And there are some practical uses for these. I mean, if you wanted a really good box opener, box cutter, these are actually amazing. And they're also amazing for like scoring jobs where you want to make a scoring cut across something. It's actually really decent for that, despite the fact it's probably not designed for those things. I mean, Fox are pretty open about the fact that they designed this as a tactical piece. So it's just it's a cool little knife to have. But yeah, you can use it for other things. Close length is 5 inches, so it's not too big in the pocket, and it only weighs 4.6 ounces. Well, I say only, it's not a light knife by any means, but it's certainly a lot lighter than maybe its fixed blade Karambit counterparts. It's a liner lock, which is a pretty simple liner locking mechanism in there, you can see, and it runs on just washers. I think they are brass washers. I took this apart and cleaned it not long ago. It comes apart fairly simply with just the removal of some of these. You'll find that these screws, a couple of them might just spin, and that's because if you unfasten one side and then you fasten the other, they just spin this piece internally, so it feels like this screw's just spinning on its own. But as long as you loosen everything off that you can, even when they're just spinning on their own and they feel like they've become unthreaded or something, just pull the knife apart. If you hold one of those, grip it, and then you can fasten that down. That just undoes, and they're all, I think that's I can't remember if they're T6s or T8s, but they're nothing unusual. Pocket clip here, stainless steel pocket clip, that can be put on either side, which is nice. It's not massively deep carry, but it can't be, because obviously you need that ring poking out of the pocket there, and then you can pull it from the pocket to deploy it, and once it's deployed, it's pulled out of the pocket, it turns to the hand nicely. As I said, very comfortable, it's very reliable, it's robust, and it's just a nice collector's piece. Is there anything I would change about it? Yeah, I would change the way that this blade just sticks a little bit. You can loosen it off enough. If you loosen that off, it will deploy really nicely, but then if you loosen it off that much that it deploys nicely, you can start to feel a little bit of wobble, and I would rather have it locked up. I mean, like that, it's locked up really firm, but I'm not too bothered about flipping it open. It's just kind of annoying that they've got that flipper on there, and it doesn't really, I don't know if I've got a Duff one, but I have seen other people with these and they've had the same thing. I've sort of said, oh, you know, how does yours deploy? And they were like, yeah, not great. You know, like you can do it, but it would be nice. In terms of modern flippers, modern ones, you should be able to just, without moving the hand, simply deploy the flipper and it would snick out quite nicely. You don't get that on these. But other than that, it's a cool thing. It's one of those knives that I've had for years. I wouldn't get rid of it. It's a nice little talking point.